are all unique and have our own personal story. So dive in with me and let's get to know some extraordinary people. On this week's episode, I sit down and talk to Ben Timmreck. We talk about his talents, hobbies, and parenting as a single father. All right, we're here with Ben Timmreck. You excited to be here?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, does this bring a little bit like some memories back to you? Because you told me once that you hosted a radio show. I believe you were in high school?
Yeah, I did. I was thinking about that as I was thinking about coming and doing this, and I'm like, man, that was such a fluke. It was such a fluke that we even got to do it. And it sounds a lot cooler than it actually was.
You hosted a radio show. That's cool.
Yeah, in high school at a college.
What college?
It was Cal State San Bernardino. And that, I guess I should probably tell this story now because it's silly. My dad, and I think this is there's probably a couple reasons why they let us do it.
And when you say us, you and a friend?
Oh, yeah, it was me and a friend. And then my brother had his own radio show too. And he might have been in high school at the time too. I don't remember if he was in college or he's 2 years older than me. So if I was like 16, he might have. I think his show was right after ours. Anyway, so this is how it went, and you're gonna be disappointed when I tell you the full story because it's not as great. But it was like summer break. I think I was like 16. The university is like a mile from my house. My dad taught there.
Okay.
And somehow we used to skateboard over there a lot too. Like we'd go and skate and whatever, and then the campus police would run you off and whatever. But we saw like a posting that's like, oh, summer DJs wanted or whatever. And I don't know how, but we just went in and we're like, hey man, like, because we were like really into music, like alternative music. And at the time I was like way into ska. And this is, I always feel like I have to like qualify that by saying it's, because ska got really big like in the mid 90s. And this was probably like 90. Like It was pretty underground. Like you'd say ska and people are like, what is that?
So give me a few examples of bands. Because when I think of ska, I think of like Less Than Jake or
Real
whatnot.
Big Fish and Mighty Boss Tones.
Right.
Like Boss Tones were around and Operation Ivy were around. Those were like the two ska punk kind of bands that everybody knew. But that was like it. So you're talking about like the Toasters, or there was a lot of Orange County ska bands that were around at the time. There was a local one called the Specs. There was another one called the Skeletones. There was Let's Go Bowling from Fresno, and Hepcat, which were awesome, and they still are from LA. So anyway, so like all those kind of bands, we'd go to a lot of ska shows, and my brother was way into straight edge hardcore, and so like we'd go to a lot of hardcore shows too. So anyway, so like we were all me and my friend were super into ska. And we're like, oh man, a radio show. And there was, the Claremont colleges were like 30 minutes away or whatever, something like that. And there was a guy there that had a ska radio show. And we're like, hey, we should do our own ska radio show. This is going to be awesome. So we signed up to do this radio show. And after we did, we found out, and this is the weirdest thing ever. It was cable radio. Like it wasn't broadcast over regular FM. They didn't have the budget for that. Okay. But you could get like a cable tuner. You're giving me weird looks because it is totally weird. It is totally weird. You could get a cable tuner and tune into like this cable radio station.
Interesting.
So it was over the summer, and I don't know. I was trying to remember if somehow they let us do it because my dad worked there, or.
Do you think they thought you were actual college students because you're on campus and hanging out?
I don't know.
Did they realize you were underage?
I don't know how you could have not. I was like 16, right? Or whatever. I think it was partly that, and I'm trying to remember. I think the station manager it was all student run. So the station manager was a student too.
Nice.
And I think his name was Manny, if I remember right. But he, I think, was just desperate to fill slots too.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we ended up doing like this radio station this ska radio show like all summer. And we like haul our crates of records over there because they had records there, but it was
not your stuff.
No, it was like college radio stuff. So they have like REM and whatever, your typical Soul Asylum or something. I don't know, like your
Train. Yeah, I'm like going back to
this
the
is
90s.
Like late 80s, early 90s kind of college radio stuff.
All right.
So anyway.
So did you just do this for the summer?
We just did it. We just did it for the summer.
Was it a daily gig?
No, it was like a weekly slot. I think it was like a Saturday afternoon or something.
That's
we
fun.
went and did it, and I think my brother had a slot, but I'm trying to remember if his was right after us. I think it was, and so he'd hang out and we'd do our show, or he'd show up early and then we'd hang out and do his show. Cool. If I remember right. It's a little hazy. It's been a long time.
That's awesome. What did your dad teach?
My dad taught health sciences kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so he actually ended up writing a textbook. Here's a little piece of Timmreck trivia for you. He wrote an epidemiology textbook, and epidemiology is like the study of infectious diseases. And so he taught a lot of public health stuff and hospital administration and
smart
that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he wrote another book that was a cyclopedic dictionary, which I'm not as scholarly as maybe I should be to understand exactly what that means, but I have one. It's got his name on it. It's kind of cool.
That is really cool.
He made sure he gave us each one.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you end up attending this college?
Yeah, I did. My brother went there, and then and it was close, and I was like,
free tuition, maybe?
No, it wasn't. Benefits? It wasn't free, but it was super cheap.
Okay.
The Cal State schools were cheaper, I think, than the University of California schools by quite a bit. And then I can't remember what the qualifications were, but if you were like under 21 and not married and et cetera, then you can get a discount through an employee or whatever. And Very so cool. I went for like, I think it was like $600 a semester or something. It was super cheap. So yeah, I went there. My brother went there, and then he went on a mission. We're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yep. So he went on a mission, and then while he was gone, like I was still in high school, and then I graduated, and then I went there for a year, and then I went on a mission, and then when I came back, I kept going there. But it was so close to home, so. Yeah.
You could live at home.
I lived at home. Smart. And I went like to school for super cheap.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's a win-win. Okay, first of all, where did you serve your mission?
I served my mission in the Utah Provo mission.
Oh, you know what's funny is my brother-in-law served there too.
Really?
Yeah, you don't meet a lot of people that served in Provo. I think my brother-in-law was the first.
Did he come from here?
He did. He came from here.
Yeah, we were in California, and so I went from California to Utah.
Okay, I have to ask. Let's talk about the day you get your mission call and your initial reaction.
This is actually. I'm glad you asked. This is a great story though.
Okay.
Because you get. I mean, they do it all email now, but you would get the letter in the mail, right? And it's a big deal when it shows up, and you find out where you're going to live for the next 2 years or what country you're going to be in. And I wanted so badly to like go foreign and do something cool. Like I want to go to Europe or my family's all German heritage on both sides, and I'm like, oh, how rad would that be if I went to Germany and learned German or something, right? And so I remember like we had like the family gather around, and I'm sitting on the couch, and I open up this thing, and I'm so excited, and then I like scan the first paragraph, and you go to the Missionary Training Center, which is in Provo,
right?
And so I was scanning the letter, and I'm like, Provo, blah 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 blah. I read the entire letter, and I'm like, where am I going? Like, what's going on? I'm like, what the crap is this? And then I go back, and I'm like what? And I read it again, and it's like, oh no, or oh okay, I'm going to the Utah Provo mission.
So were you disappointed? Let's be honest. I mean, did you just kind of feel like a little deflated? A little bit. Like I was like really ready to go, and so I was really excited to go wherever. Yeah.
And I pretty much had like that attitude where it's like, you know what, I'll go wherever you want me to go, right? And so I really wanted to go foreign, but it was like,
Yeah.
And I think for me and a lot of people I told, it's just like, wait, they have missionaries in Utah? Like, what's going on?
Oh, that's so funny.
But at the time, like, it ended up being really cool. I think because it is Utah, you learn... you learn a lot of different things that I don't think that you would learn in more of like a regular stateside mission or whatever. So, but there was a lot of like quirky Utah kind of things. One of the funniest things that I remember is after you leave you go to the MTC, and I was there for like 3 weeks. So I was short time there. And then the first thing you do is, if you're a normal missionary, you go to the airport. Usually they get you on a bus, and you go up to the Salt Lake airport, and then they send you off to wherever you're going. And then when you land, you get picked up by missionaries, and then you go to the mission president's house, and then they assign you wherever you're going to go.
Right.
So for us, like, we walked out the front door of the MTC, we got on a bus, and we drove maybe a mile. We got off the bus, and it's like, you're here. The mission president's house was up there, like, behind the Provo Temple.
Really?
Yeah. And you're just like, okay.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm here. Where am I going to go now?
Right. So where did you go first?
St. George.
Oh, okay.
Which, it was August, and so it was hot.
Ooh, that's brutal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in San Bernardino, which is inland. It's California, but it's like halfway between LA and Palm Springs, right? Yeah. So it's always a little hotter inland. So I was used to like 100, 103 or whatever. It's not as hot as here, but.
Yeah. So Provo, Utah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I remember my husband always wanted to go to Japan, and he was a little disappointed when he got called to Argentina. But then, of course, he ended up loving it. Loves it so much. But that's funny. Provo, Utah. Yep, you don't meet many. I haven't met many.
No, and, well, what was interesting, too, is, I guess I should say, because this was, I was there from 93 to 95. But our mission was huge. It was all of southern Utah.
Okay.
It was like Lehigh and Vernal, Roosevelt area, all the way down to the north rim of the Grand Canyon. So Four Corners was in our mission.
That's cool.
And St. George and Mesquite, Nevada, that was in our mission.
Yeah.
It was pretty much all of the southern part of the state, yeah.
So you liked your mission?
Yeah, it was great.
You know what? I have a mystery listener. Well, mystery to you. One of my listeners asked me to ask you to tell the story about you birthing a cow on your mission.
I didn't birth it.
Well, no, that was literally the text. You assisted in the birth of a cow.
Dang.
Or no?
No, we didn't. We didn't.
Or did you just witness it?
We didn't really birth it. I don't remember birthing it, but you.
When I think birth it, I'm thinking like me birthing my baby.
No, well, I don't know how you do that. Like do an elbow drop on the side of the cow and like watch it pop out. But no, they're in Delta.
Get out. My Delta. Uncle lived in Delta, a cowboy in Delta.
Really?
How funny would it be if this was like my uncle you were talking about? Probably around that time he lived in Delta. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff? When did Rick live in Delta?
What's his last name?
Rick Hall.
Rick Hall. Maybe. I don't know.
And he had a really pretty wife named Sloan.
I don't know.
But that was just for a couple of years, so I don't know during that time. Anyway, so Delta, small little town, middle of nowhere.
It was super awesome. Delta, there's a lot of memories popping up in my head now. One of the funny things that I remember that I actually took a photo of was there's a gravestone there for Herman Munster in the graveyard at Delta.
Interesting.
My grandma, on my mom's side, my grandma grew up in Delta, so my great grandma was from Delta.
Oh, no way.
And she was like, yeah, their last name was Hilton.
Okay.
Vera Hilton. And they lived there forever. And she was like a trooper. She lived till she was 94. And she even served a mission here at the Mesa Visitor Center for the temple when she was like in her 80s. She was just like super, like, smart with it, like sharp, older lady. Anyway, so Delta was great. I had great companions there, and that always helps, like, in an area. And we always, like, seemed like we had work to do, and the people were great. But one of the fun things that we do, like, you're supposed to do service, certain number of, like, service hours. I would say community service, but that makes it sound like we're, like, out of the pokey on like trying to like do right by the community. So we would go do service with this large animal veterinarian named H. Nielsen, and he had a practice right there on the edge of town. So sometimes, like, we'd go over there and we'd get all geared up, and you'd go out to, like, dairy farms, and you'd vaccinate cows, or you'd help herd the cows to the, into the chute to get them vaccinated and that kind of stuff. But he also had a chute built at his place so you could herd the cows in. I remember seeing him, sometimes cows get cancer on their eyes, and he had to, like, cut the eye out and then sew it up and whatever. It's kind of gross. But I think whoever your mystery listener is, there was one time that we went. We didn't birth it, but the way to tell if a cow is pregnant is you get him in the chute, and then you get a glove that goes up to your shoulder, and then you, like, lube it up, and then you stick your arm up cow's butt, right? And scoop all the poop out. Ugh. And then if you, like, get your arm in there and you, like, feel around, you can actually feel the calf's head. So despite all the super grossness of it, you can. It's really cool. You can actually feel, like, the slimy little calf inside of the mom, and it's pretty neat. So we did that, and the companion I had at the time, they actually got this picture of him with his arm, like, he's like
shoved up there.
He's shoulder deep into this cow behind, right? And then they framed it for him and gave it to him for Christmas because we were there at Christmas.
Wow.
The other funny thing is, H was kind of a salty dude, and he would always say, like, when we were done, he'd be like, "Oh, I'm so hungry I could eat a skunk's a-hole."
Oh my gosh.
And so there was one time that we were driving around and we found this skunk. It was like fresh roadkill, but it wasn't, like, smushed. It was like somehow it got hit, but it didn't, like, explode it, and so it didn't really smell that bad. And I wanted a skunk's tail because this goes back to my ska. Like, I had a Vespa, and I was like, the ska dude, whatever. And so I had, like, a big aerial, like one of those poles on the back of my scooter, and I wanted, like, skunk tail for it because it's black and white. So I thought it'd be cool, and I got home to, like, put that on there. So I was like, oh man, let's get this skunk tail.
Here's your opportunity.
Yeah, and so on our P-Day, we went out into this field, into this, like, little ditch, like an irrigation ditch, right? And, like, we, like, skinned the skunk, right? It smelled so bad. It was the worst thing ever. But then we cut out the skunk's butthole, right? And we threw it in a jar of formaldehyde, and we gave it to him for Christmas, I think, or something like that. So whenever he got hungry, he could have his skunk's a-hole.
Oh, that is so funny. A delicacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime he gets hungry, he's good.
So music is a big part of your life.
Yeah. It has been for a long time. I don't know. Like, it's not in the same way like your brother's music. Like, I'm not a great musician or anything. I just listen to a lot.
You love music. But yeah.
I do.
Well, what I like is I've heard a couple of stories. So my husband, first of all, I want to thank you because my husband likes a lot of music that I just don't love. Like, but I'll go to shows with him because I want to hang out with him and it's fun.
Right.
But you've stepped in and you've gone to a few shows with my husband that I know you enjoyed, right? Because they're bands that you guys mutually like.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like, oh, thank you. I don't have to go see this show.
Saved you.
He's like, I'm going to go with them. But he really has enjoyed going to these shows with you and your sons. But he told me, can you remind me what band was it that you guys went and saw and you got to go backstage basically because you befriended, somehow you became friends with this band and just a really cool story.
Yeah. That show was Newfound Glory and Bayside and this band called The Movie Life.
Yes.
And I knew David. He's super into The Movie Life. And he really liked Bayside too. And it's funny because every time we talk about Bayside, it's like I've tried listening to them like over and over, and they're just like, they don't turn my crank like I want them to. And so I'm like, okay, dude, if you're into them, that's cool. Like, not for me, but that's fine.
I do have to say, they just came out with this new acoustic album, and I really like it.
Oh,
it's
maybe I'll
really,
have to check
really
that
good.
out and see if that's...
But I remember telling Davey, oh, I really like this. And he's like, yeah, this one, Ben doesn't really like them. I'm like, really? This is really good. I think he said it's a little too mellow for you. Maybe. I can't remember what he said, but I just remember making the comment that this isn't the one you really particularly like, but it's good. I really like this album. Okay, so I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I am a little bit finicky. Like and I know it, and that's fine. Like everybody's got their own.
Yeah, but you know what you like.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I tend to like lean to more like catchy, fun kind of poppy stuff. So yeah, so like that show, it was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, it was Newfound Glory. Movie Life, me and Dad actually went and saw them one time before at a really small club up in Phoenix, and there wasn't that many people there, but it was like super cool to see him because it was like you're just right up front, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then this time I'm friends with the dude in one of the bands, and so we were able to. He hooked us up with a couple of like backstage passes, and we got to go backstage and meet some of the guys and whatever.
So can you talk to me about how you became friends with this guy from the band?
Yeah. Okay, so I worked for a long time for a company called McFarlane Toys. 16 years I was there. They do all sorts of action figures. They do construction sets, kind of like Lego sets. And the guy that runs it, Todd McFarlane, is famous for creating the Spawn character. And he's the president of Image Comics, and so he is like huge in the comics world. And so and this is getting a little derailed, but like this is part of what I would do there.
And
like,
this is the whole purpose of Dive In with
Amy.
We dive deep, so I want all the details.
So I worked as a graphic designer and art director there. And so I would help do the production on the comic book every month. I would design all the trade paperbacks and hardcover collections for the comic books. I would do ads for the toys and logos for comic books and all sorts of like stuff related. And depending on the license that you get, like we had NFL and we had the MLB and we did Napoleon Dynamite figures and we did Alien versus Predator and we did,
What a cool job.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And as a designer and as like a creative, you just get to keep like flexing those creative muscles because there's always something different there. And it was always cool and like fun, pop culture kind of stuff. So, anyway, so it turns out, and I didn't really know this, and I wasn't like really like fishing for it, but it like some of these dudes that are in bands are about that age where they grew up with Spawn or they grew up collecting toys and whatever. And so how it actually happened is like I'm divorced. I got 3 sons. I've been divorced for it's like 8 years now, something like that. And we're fans of the band Newfound Glory. And like I just they're just fun. They're like one of my favorites. I love listening to those dudes.
So you say so your sons as well?
Yeah, I've actually been really fortunate in that my kids, for the most part, like actually like listening to the same kind of music that I do. I mean, Josh, my oldest, he's way more into like metal than I am, but he started out with, like the stuff that I listen to, kind of pop punk and whatever. And then my middle son, Christian, likes the same kind of stuff too. So, and Ethan, my youngest, is like way into 21 Pilots right now, which is fine. And they're really good actually. But anyway, this is like years ago. I don't even know how many years ago, probably like 5 years ago or something. I'm guessing, I could be wrong. But anyway, being a single dad, I was straight up broke. Like there was not a lot of extra money, every time like holidays or Halloween or sports fees or whatever at school come around, you're just like, oh no, like how am I going to pay for this? We got to make this work. I got a budget. I got to do this. And And so at the time, Newfound Glory hadn't done like a tour in a while. And I saw that they were going to do a tour, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this, I want to go to this so bad. But then I'm like, okay, if I go and then I take all 3 kids, I'm like 20, 40, 60, like I can't justify spending probably $100 going to like a show, right? Yeah. And so I was like, I kept thinking about it, and I know this sounds weird, but for me, us going to like these punk rock shows, and I'm like fairly selective. I don't tend to gravitate toward bands that have like a really negative or dark vibe. Usually it's fairly positive and upbeat, and so sometimes I'm a little bit hesitant to be like, yeah, like punk rock, because then you think, oh, like dude's into like some really dark stuff, and I'm just not. I'm pretty selective about what I like and keeping things uplifting, for me at least. So anyway, for me, Newfound Glory are like one of those bands, and us going to shows was like a way for us to do something as a family, which is kind of weird, but like,
which is neat though. It's a bonding experience.
It is sort of a bonding experience, yeah. And so there's like something that we do, and we all tend to have like the same kind of personalities in that respect, where we all really enjoy like listening to music or like listening to bands play and appreciating it. Yeah,
that's neat.
So anyway, so I was like super broke, but I really wanted to go, and I was just laying there in bed, and I'm like, I need to give up. This isn't going to happen, right? And then I had this thought, and I swear this is going to sound dumb, but I swear it was like a spiritual prompting of like, because I kept thinking, well, I could, because I'd gone to Warped Tour a few years, like we're diving in deep here.
Please do.
In years past, I'd gone to Warped Tour on press passes because our website had like a sister site for a little while that was just pop culture stuff, and it was like news and movie reviews and concert reviews and all that kind of stuff. But it was all written by just regular McFarlane staff. We didn't hire extra staff to do it. And so if you want to do a movie review, they'd be like, okay, here, like this movie's coming out, go watch the movie, but you got to like write a review for it for the site, right?
What a cool opportunity for the employees. Yeah. Did you ever write any reviews?
Oh, yeah.
That's neat.
Well, that was like my way of going to stuff too. It's like, I'm like, yeah, I'll go do it if I get to write a review.
Heck yeah.
And so I had gone to Warped Tour, which was like a dream for me. Like, okay, I get to go to Warped Tour for free, go backstage and interview bands. I get to see bands. I'm like, this is freaking awesome, right? Like super cool. So by doing that, I ended up on like these PR lists, and so I kept getting these PR emails, and that's how I found out about the tour for Newfound Glory. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like Newfound Glory. And then I'm like, well, I could email their like PR person. But then I was like, I didn't want to be dishonest at all and be like, oh, I'm gonna, because at this time that sister site was gone.
Okay.
So there was no more like, I'm going to write a review, I'm going to give you coverage, that's why you're giving me this pass, is so I can, do press for you. That was all gone, and so it was just me mooching pretty much, right? And I didn't want to feel like a mooch, and I didn't want to be dishonest at all. And so I was like, well, I guess if I have one shot, I could just, like, I'll just type up a super honest email and send it and see what they say. And so I typed this email to whoever who did their PR, and I was just like, hey, look, here's the situation. I'm a huge fan. I like the band a lot. I've got 3 sons, like they're fans too. We would love to go to the concert. Tickets are a little pricey. I'm a single dad. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I don't know.
You were being honest.
I was being honest, but I don't know. I don't like feeling like I'm playing to people's sympathies either. I've always tried to just be like, you suck it up and just do it, right?
Yeah.
It's not anybody's fault but my own, or whatever. That's life.
Right.
And
You've been dealt a hand, and you just run with it, and you just deal with it.
Yeah. So I didn't want to. Anyway.
You didn't want a pity party, essentially. But
No.
Throw me a bone here.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I am, things are a little tight. So anyway, I sent it off sort of like on a wing and a prayer, just like, you know, if nothing comes of it, at least I tried. Mm-hmm. But I did like have this thought that maybe I should try. So I was like, eh. And so I thought, you know, whatever, well, I'll just try it. And so what I said was like, I can't really like, you know, give you anything, but hey, I do work for this toy company. And if the band wants to come in, I could totally give them a tour. Like we would have people that would come through all the time. We'd have like, you know, sometimes we'd have schools, or we'd have like Make-A-Wish kids that would come in and meet Todd McFarlane.
Oh, that's
like
neat.
Stuff like that would happen a lot, right? Or people that were just fans that were in town wanted to come in, like, because the offices there's like movie memorabilia and the walls were lined with toys, and everybody's desks had like different toys all over them, and comic art, you know, everywhere, and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, if they wanted to come in before the show, I would be super psyched to give them a tour, right? And that was pretty much it. And so I got this email back like right away from their PR person that was like, hey, yeah, that sounds great. So-and-so in the band, I can't remember if they said him by name, but it was Chad Gilbert, who plays guitars for them. He's like, oh, he's a huge Mike McFarlane Toys fan. He loves that stuff. Like the band wants to come in for the tour. They think that would be really cool.
No way.
And I was just totally blown away. I was like, what? So they ended up, like when they came to like, and then they put us on the guest list, and we were like happy little campers to go to the show. It was like super awesome. It was super awesome.
That is really neat. You went for it.
I went for it. And then the band came in, and they were just like, they were so nice. Like all the guys in the band were super cool, and we gave them the tour around, and they're like talking about, you know, all their favorite stuff and whatever. And they're just really nice guys. And I ended up becoming friends with Chad, the guitar player.
And this was about, you said roughly 5 years ago or so.
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 years or something. Yeah, I don't know.
You've seen them a few times since then, right? Mm-hmm. So every time they come, basically you get to go.
Yeah, Chad always like, hey, you want to come to the show? Yeah.
Who would have thought? So, you know, you got your tickets to that one show, and then, I mean, my husband was able to benefit from it. He had so much fun going to that show with you guys.
Yeah.
That is a cool story.
Yeah, they're just super nice. It's kind of weird, but it's like, I mean, they're just dudes, right?
Right.
They live in the same world we do. Yeah.
Yeah, just cool. That's really neat.
It's super fun.
What a nice
thing. And I don't like to talk about it because I feel braggy, and I don't want to be braggy. And
I don't get that sense from you at all. Honestly, I feel like you're very modest and humble with it. But I just think that's a really neat story. Number one is the fact that you did that for your sons, and you had a prompting and you went for it. And the second part is, what a cool people, you know? It just like they responded to it, and it turned out to be a nice friendship and just something neat. So I don't feel like you're pompous or braggy and talking it. So thanks for sharing the story.
Sure. It is a pretty good story.
I think it's a really good story.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Okay, so you single dad, 8 years roughly.
Yeah.
How has that been?
I think like any parenting gig, it changes over time. Mm-hmm. At first, I was actually thinking about this earlier because I didn't know if we were going to talk about this, but I remember one of the hardest things, like when you first become single, whether it's you're separated or you're divorced or whatever it is, it's just, I think for me, there's like this realization that you have that if you want something done, like you got to do it. Mm-hmm. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen. And whether that's making dinner or doing laundry, especially if you've got like younger kids. I think my youngest was probably, I think he was 7 or 8 when
it's young.
When I got divorced, yeah.
So you had homework and
homework, you got school registration, you got school sports for the older ones. You've got laundry, you've got dinner every night.
Church activities.
You got breakfast every morning, you got church activities. School you got scouts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it actually made me think like, man, when I was married, I was so lazy. Like I did not do nearly as much because I think for me, always and it probably, I guess it should be this way, like always in the back of your head, like I got this partner that's going to back me up. If I'm having a bad day, like they're going to pick up the slack and vice versa, right?
Right.
But like once you get divorced, you're just like, nope, like this is it.
It's you.
It's you, and if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. And so and for church activity, because my ex, she decided to quit going to church, and this was before we even got divorced. And we were married for about 4 years after that. So we tried to make it work, right? But like in the end, it just wasn't going to. And so for me, wanting to be an active member of the church and wanting to raise my kids that way, like, and I realized that like I'm the linchpin. Like I've got these kids, and if I don't read scriptures with them every night, or if I don't take them to church, and all my family is in California still, right? So it's me in Arizona with my 3 little sons, right? Mm-hmm. And if I don't do it, it's not going to happen. And if I lose my mind, right? If I fall off the wagon, if I can't keep my crap together, then like this could affect generations.
Yeah.
Because there's not anybody, and maybe this is pessimistic or independent me, you know, because I'm a little bit like that, where it's like I got to do it myself. You know, just thinking that nobody's going to step in. Well, it's not like, I mean, my family's been great, but they're in California, right? So it's not like my mom's going to come over and like take the kids to church every Sunday or whatever, because I'm having a bad day or whatever. So I don't know. So there was that part of it that was really hard, and I think it just took a lot of time, honestly, like on my knees, like getting guidance and strength and trying to like just muscle through like every day for a while. And then as the kids get older, some, you know, things change and things get better. Mm-hmm. Older kids are a lot more self-sufficient than younger kids.
Yeah. And
they can figure things out on their own and whatever. So, and Josh was always like super smart, so he was pretty good about his own schoolwork and whatever. So
you've raised some great kids.
Yeah.
They're good kids.
Well,
they're just very nice boys.
They are very nice boys.
Well, now 2 are men, technically, right? Because aren't your older 2 adults? Yeah,
Josh is 21 and Christian's 19.
Yeah. So what would you say it has been your greatest accomplishment so far to this date, being a single dad of 3 kids? What are you most proud of?
That's actually a great question. I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that I have a good relationship with my kids. I've been able to, and to me, this is actually a little bit gratifying. So I'm glad that you asked that, because one of the things that I set out to do, and thankfully my mom, like around the time that I got divorced, she gave me this great book called Christ-Like Parenting that I've read and like continue to like reread off and on. But it talks about like how you should always make home like the safest place. Mm-hmm. So if there's like a lot of negativity going on at home, the kids are going to want to go elsewhere to find that safety and feel loved. And so despite like the struggles that you have with disagreeing or your kids making choices that you don't agree with, I think for me, probably the greatest accomplishment that I've been able to have is just to have a great relationship with my kids. I think that if you would ask them, they would tell you, yeah, I know my dad loves me, and I know my dad's always going to be there for me, and that I can go to him and talk to him. And despite whatever choices they're making, that they know that that's there and that's available.
And that's not going to change, no matter.
And it's not going to change, and it's not conditional.
Yeah, that's right? Beautiful.
And so I think that like singular thing I think it's pretty great, and I think it's probably one of the best things that you can hope for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just as a mom, and my kids are still so little.
Yeah.
But that's the one thing is I'm always like, I love you guys so much. I love you so much. And my older daughter said the other day, Mom, we know you tell us all the time. I'm like, good, you're hearing that. You know that. But that is the most important, that they know that. And that's nice that they can come talk to you. So your oldest son, 21, you mentioned? So he's out of the house.
Yeah, he's been out of the house for a few years.
And he's, he's out in the real world doing his thing. And he still comes to you for advice and talks to you. And that's got to feel good, right?
Yeah. It does, yeah.
It's gotta feel really good.
It does.
That he still wants to be around you.
Well, it's like... sometimes when he's not, I'm like, you get a little bit of that parent guilt. And it's not that I heap it on, but I think that he was raised in such a way that if he was like, he knows what I approve of and don't approve of, even if I don't say anything. And I think, I don't know. I don't know if he stays away because he feels guilty. Yeah. And he's like, I don't want to be around Dad because I know that I'm doing something that he wouldn't approve of. Or like he feels his own guilt for what he's doing. Or it could be none of those things. And he just wants to check out and not be involved. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But I don't think he ever has a problem. Like if he really needs to talk, like going, hey, Dad, like, what's up?
Yeah. He knows you're there.
Yeah.
And always will be.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. So you mentioned that he is very creative. Josh, your older one.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah, I think they all are in their own little different ways. Josh has always liked to draw. Josh is musically inclined, even though he's kind of like me, where he's kind of a hack when it comes to instruments. Like I took piano when I was a kid for a couple of years, and then I played trumpet for 4 years in school. But then when you hit high school, you're like, I don't want to be a band nerd. And so and then that's about the time that I was started skateboarding a lot. And, it was junior high and then high school, and then I got into ska a lot. So I still had like music stuff, but it was more like listening to it. And then I self-taught on guitar, which I'm not great at. I mean, it's not hard to play punk rock songs if it's just you're playing like Ramones or Sex Pistols or something. They're not, it's not hard.
Well, it is for me.
No.
Because I'm not very musically.
So anyway, Josh never really had guitar lessons, but he was able to pick up playing stuff like that. Yeah. And then Christian he's a gem. I love Christian. He decided when he was 16, he'd never had piano lessons. And he just decided, I think he was 16. He was like 16 or 17. He was like, I want to take lessons. And so he started taking piano lessons, and we'd go to like his recitals, and he would be there with like all these little like 6, 7, 8-year-olds, and Christian would get up there and like do his song. And
good for him.
Yeah. So it was fun.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
So he learned to play a little bit. Yeah.
That's awesome. Kate, can I ask you, going back to your creative gene?
Oh, yeah.
Did you study graphic design in school? What did you study?
Yeah, I have a BA.
Okay.
I have a Bachelor of Arts in Art. And the school that I went to, Cal State San Bernardino, they had a graphic design emphasis. So if you were an art major, you could go, I want to be an art major and do fine art, which would be like sculpting or painting or whatever, or I want to be graphic design, or they might have had a photography one or something too. I don't remember. But they did have an actual graphic design program. The funny part of that, though, is like when we were growing up, because my brother went to the same school, has the same degree, works as a graphic designer, is really good. And he's worked for some really notable companies. Like
ad agencies, or
no,
just doing in-house design?
He does in-house design. He started, early on he worked at ad agencies, I like bragging on my brother because to me, he's just like really good at what he does. But he worked at an ad agency for a while, and then he also worked for this clothing company called Sarcastic out of LA. And I laugh when I say it because it's like such a cliche, but they were like big in Japan. Like they would do all these limited number of colorways of shirts. And so it was almost like this collector market of like this like Japanese fashion, and they had a storefront there and all this stuff. Anyway, but my brother's name's Chad, but he also worked for Capitol Records, Capitol EMI, and so he got to, and he's a big music fan also, like us. Like he's kind of like what got me into a lot of stuff. How older brothers do,
Right.
But and so he got to work on some like cool stuff at Capitol, doing CD, jackets and whatever. And then he after that is, I think, is when he went to Sarcastic. I don't remember his whole resume or whatever, but he worked at Alpine Stars for a long time, for like 8 or 9 years, and they are motorcycle gear. You see like the little logo with the A and the star or something, whatever. But he did all sorts of stuff for them, graphic tees mostly, but he also did like a cool little like history kind of book for them, and did like some jacket designs and some other stuff. He got to go to Italy.
Wow. To
like one of their factories or whatever over there, because they're a European company. And then he left there, and this is only a few years ago. And then he started working at, he left there to work at Element.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he was doing graphic tees for Element for a while, and then he left there, and he was working for this company called Soltech, and Soltech is the parent company for Emerica and Etnies and Altamont and 32, which is a snowboard brand. And so he did graphic tees and stuff for them. And then he left there, and now he actually works for Huff.
No way.
And he does a lot of like cool like Huff shirts and whatever.
Impressive.
Yeah, he's like really talented. Like in my mind, way more so than me. Like he's just really good.
I'm sure he'd probably say the same thing about you.
No, maybe
and I'm
not,
sure he's telling all his friends, my brother worked for McFarlane Toys.
Yeah, maybe.
What now? So being a dad to 3 little boys, because how old, your kids were young when you started at McFarlane.
Oh, yeah.
What a cool job for their dad. I mean, did they ever come into your office, and was that so fun for those boys to come to their dad's work and see all these toys and the fun things that you were working on? In my mind, I would think, what a cool job.
I would think so too, but because they were so young, I think they just thought,
that's just normal.
This is
my dad goes to work and plays.
Yeah, this is just where dad works, and I would bring. I mean, you'd get free comic books and whatever, and so I'd bring home like comic books that were age appropriate and whatever. And then you'd get free toys once in a while, and so I'd bring home toys. And then at Christmas, like, you'd always get a few extra toys and wrap them up, a lot of Spawn toys and whatever.
That is really neat.
Yeah, and so like in my head, I was like, I thought it was cool, right? And then I get to give this stuff to them, and I think that's cool. But then at some point, like especially as they got older and I'd been there a long time, right? I was like, this is like the only job that I've ever had. They don't remember me like working at an ad agency before this, or I worked at ASU for a little bit too. And like, they don't remember like the hard times that I had before I had this job. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, I think for them, it was just like, more toys, more comic books, and to the point where they're just like, oh, whatever.
What was your favorite toy or project you ever worked on at McFarlane? Anything that just kind of took you back to your childhood, or just make you feel like a kid again, where work was play?
Let me think. I think some projects, I think some projects stand out because you're able to be a little bit more free with them. The interesting thing about a lot of the products that you work on there is that because they're licensed products, they come with what's called a style guide. Mm-hmm. And so if you're doing South Park stuff, you have to follow the South Park style guide. You have to use specific fonts. You have to use specific artwork. You have to make it look like all the other South Park products or whatever, right? And so
staying within those brand guidelines.
Yeah, you got to stay within brand guidelines. And so there was a lot of those. And so for me, it was the freedom and the fun to work on either our own properties, like Spawn related stuff, or those licenses where they're just like a little bit more free, where you're like, hey, you come play with our stuff a little bit and it's cool. And Napoleon Dynamite, they were pretty good like that, where I was able to like draw some goofy little things we would do these micro sites for each toy line at the time. And those all had sound chips in them.
Oh, fun.
With quotes from the movie and whatever. And so it was cool to be able to like do these really bad drawings that look like Napoleon would have done them, right?
Yeah.
And have it relate to the toys, and do like this really bad handwriting or these goofy little like notebook kind of drawings, and then scan them in and then put them as part of the like motif of the microsite or whatever. And yeah. I think those kind of projects were more fun and memorable to me than taking like the Matrix style guide and just applying it to whatever we have to do, which is kind of cool, because then you get to do Matrix stuff. But at the same time, it's not nearly as,
for a creative guy, you just don't like to be restricted.
Yeah,
is what you're saying essentially.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
So you've left McFarlane Toys,
mm-hmm.
and what are you doing now?
I work for an ad agency here in Gilbert, Arizona. And it's
has that been a huge shift? Just, I would imagine, just a shift in culture, right?
Yeah. It's been different in a lot of ways. McFarlane was great for a lot of different reasons than where I work now is great. It's called Reed Hill. And all the reasons why I left, I think, are all the reasons why I'm where I'm at now too. For me, it was great to work there, but you also get locked in with like a specific routine and a specific skill set. And because the nature of the product, that what you do there never really changes. It's always action figures and comic books. The action figures change, right? And the comics change a little bit over mm-hmm. time, but it's still, it's the same type of product. And so you're doing the same type of work, and, it's sort of routine. And I was there for a long time. And so, and also knowing, that the owner of the company is a really creative guy, and he was great. I've got no issues there. Dude's awesome, right? But it's his company. Mm-hmm. And so you're always going to bow to the master to some degree. And I think every job's like that unless you're the owner, right? And now the master is the client to a degree, right?
So are you more client facing in this?
Oh yeah. It's a branding agency, so we do advertising, but we do focus a lot more on. What I like about it is we focus more on like figuring out how to personalize people's brands, to sort of get people to connect with brands. Mm-hmm. And so from what I was doing before, it's more of like a high level creative thinking sort of existence than what I had before.
Not as many restrictions?
No, I wouldn't say that. You've always got to follow. Mm-hmm. Now it's like I'm helping establish some of the brands for these companies instead of just taking something somebody else has created. And because of the nature of the clients that we have too, there's variety, but some of it's more corporate, but some of it you do get to play around a little bit. But I'm gaining these experiences and sort of helping myself, forcing myself to become a little more well-rounded than I was before if I would have just kept doing the same thing over and over,
Absolutely. Do you ever do creative stuff just as a hobby on the side at home for fun?
No, I don't. And I think I think I realized years ago that the sort of the crux of that was like, I get to do this all day long. It's like having your hobby for your job, right? And I think for people, like if I was an accountant or something and I like had that creative bug that I wanted to do something, then I would love the crap out of my hobby.
Yeah, your creative outlets.
Oh, yeah. But if you do that all day long, by the time you get home and you're done, you're just like...
It's lost its magic.
No, it doesn't lose its magic.
No?
You still want to do it for work, but you scratch that itch.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
You scratch the itch all day long, and so when you get off work, you're just like, I don't itch anymore. Everything's cool. Like, I don't need to do it.
Yeah, but you do design your own Christmas cards, right?
Yeah, those little tags. I do awesome. Like some stuff you do that's, or I actually did some shirts for these women that I know that were like celebrating the Grand Canyon anniversary. They asked me to do these shirts for them, and so there's little like things that you do that are fun like that are outside the norm of what you do.
Little freelancing from time to time.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but it is different. I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, I gave you the answer. It's just very long-winded.
Any outside of music, because we talked about your passions, music, creative, right? Which you're fortunate to work in it, and your family. Any other passions? I
like skateboarding, even though I'm not very good and I'm old and I tend to hurt myself frequently. But that's another one of those things that's helped me to stay connected with my kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I have these epiphanies, and I feel like I keep coming back to this like idea that every once in a while I have like this realization, these aha moments in my life. And I had one of those at some point. My kids were younger and they were playing club football, right? You know, full gear tackle football. And I would look like parents would show up to practice and they would sit on the sidelines, and there's like, you know, these big dudes, and they're just like sitting there, and then they watch their kids and they pack up the stuff and go home. And I was just like, I don't want to be like so out of shape or uninvolved that I can't do stuff with my kids. And if I was always very open to like, if they want to play football, like cool, you know, let them play football. And if that's what they're into, you know, let's let them try everything. They want to do soccer, they want to do baseball, like we'll support them.
That's good. You want them to figure out what
you figure out what you like. And I grew up like when I was younger, I really liked playing football. And so I thought it would be, I mean, in the back of my head, I'm like, you know, if they love this, that's great. It'd be fun to play with them and, you know, throw the ball around or teach them or do whatever. But then like as I grew older and we moved around a little bit, I got into skateboarding, and I loved skateboarding, I think, for a lot of the opposite reasons of like why I liked football. But to me, like skateboarding, it's one of those things where I didn't need to have a team to go do it. I could go outside the, you know, front of my house and do it on the curb, or I could go in the garage and do something, or I could go by myself somewhere, or if I had friends, we could go together. And for an outsider, it probably all looks the same, but if you're the one doing it, there's like, you can learn this kind of trick, you can learn that kind of trick, or you can combine tricks, or you can try this trick on that thing, and that becomes your creativity of figuring out how to have fun while you're mixing all these things together.
Yeah. Of
how you do it. And then there's like the, I don't know, in my head it was I would always just look super cool. Like I just remember when I was probably 12 maybe, seeing like this shot of a dude in Thrasher or something, and he's just doing this front side air, and he's like 2 or 3 feet above the coping on the ramp, and I'm just like, oh, that just looks so awesome. Like I want to be able to do that. And then you start skating, and you're like in, you know, this is, you know, back in the late 80s, early 90s, and you're like in backyard pools, and that feeling of like weightlessness as you like go up and down and up and down. It's a lot of fun.
That's neat.
Anyway, so we're diving in deep with that because I got derailed again. So it's not like I don't think I ever set out and was like, I want my kids to be skaters, right? Or I was like, they can do whatever they want. But I've always like had skateboards, and they've had skateboards in case they wanted to try it. And so they grew up kind of skating, then they rode scooters for a while, and then did this for a while. But like now my kids are back to the point where they're like, they skateboard. And so I'll go to the skate park with my kids and go, ride and whatever for an hour or two.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Again, another nice thing to do as a family.
It is. And I think I've been really fortunate that I have like these sort of touch points or these activities that we can all sort of do together and bond over, and that I've kept myself in shape enough that even though I do get hurt, frequently, that it's never like super bad.
Have you ever broken a bone skating?
Nope. I never have.
Knock on that wood.
Good. I never have.
That's neat.
So I think it's just really, I think I'm really fortunate that I have these bonding things that I can do.
Right.
Just stay close to my kids.
That's really important.
Yeah.
Your kids clearly are the center of your universe, right? I mean, it seems like it. Like, at least your main priority.
Yeah, I would say, and I think that's the way it should be. Like, in my head, it's always, family first. Mm-hmm. Family, and then religion, and then all that other stuff, right?
Do you mind me asking? You've been divorced 8 years. Mm-hmm. Have you dated since you've divorced?
I have, off and on. I haven't been in like a serious relationship. I've met a few women from time to time that like I think I would have liked to be in a serious relationship, but it never seemed to go that way. It's been a real like tug of war spiritually and emotionally, because right after I got divorced, I was just like, all right, dope, I'm single, like let's get dating, and I want to get married again, and obviously that didn't work out that way, or it hasn't yet. But I always felt, again, I think it goes back to that idea of me being like the linchpin at the time for my kids. It's like, if I am not focused on them, or I always just felt like this feel, I don't know what you call it, like this idea or this feeling that like that wasn't my priority, or that shouldn't be my priority. And I think some people, I don't know, I'm not going to say that. I can't speak for other people, right, what they feel or what they need.
Yeah.
Because some people clearly like that works out for them that way. But for me, it was like, I get frustrated because I think people like look at me and go, oh, Ben doesn't date much, or he didn't date much, and why isn't this dude married yet, or why isn't he dating? I don't have a problem dating and going out, and like in fact, it's the opposite, where like I wanted that so badly, but that was not clearly Heavenly Father's plan for me. And so if I'm really trying to follow the Spirit and follow what I think is best for me, then I'm doing that. And for me, that was, you need to focus on your kids, and you need to make sure that all this is in order, and you need to keep doing that until the time's right. Until the time's right. And obviously that time is not yet, because I'm still here and I'm a single dude or whatever. So
but you're doing what is best for you. You're following your heart. And
that's where the tug of war is like, in my heart, I'm like, man, I wish I was like married. It would be awesome, right? And you justify like, oh, if I was married, I'd have like, my kids would have like a stepmom, and it'd be, a better environment, and we'd be able to co-parent, and you'd be able to do this, and like you find all these reasons why you want to make it happen. But when it comes down to it, if we're really learning to trust in God, then you have to let go of what you think and really humble yourself to go, what really is best for me and what really is best for my kids right now. And that's not easy to do.
I can't imagine it would be.
No. And I still struggle with that, because I'm you're like 8 or 9 years in or whatever it is now. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, I got one kid getting ready to go on a mission. I got another one out of the house. I've only got one at home. Like,
you'll be an empty nester.
What am I? Yeah, like 3 years from now, maybe Ethan will be on a mission. I'm like, okay, what am I waiting for now?
Well, by then you'll have all the time in the world.
I know.
So, but you know what? If it's meant to be, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's great to say, but it's not easy to live.
Well, it's harder said than done. And
sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I look at you and I just think, I don't look at you and I would never just say like, oh, he's not dating because he's some weirdo or I wonder why he's not dating. You know what I mean? You're a very upbeat guy and cool dude. And so all my listeners out there, all the single ladies.
Great.
Which we do have lots of photos on my website usually for our episode page.
Dive In with Amy is secretly
dive
in dating with Amy.
No, but anyway, no, I think you're awesome. I think you're doing a fantastic job just living your life, and clearly you're an awesome dad. It shows, seriously.
Thank you.
And you have awesome kids, and
it's very kind of you to say.
No, seriously, I think it's awesome.
But this is the thing that this is it now. Like, I just remembered. Okay, so I had this realization as I was raising my kids, and we had talked about like each kid is different, right? You're just like, what works for one doesn't work for the other. But I had this realization that raising kids is not so much like trying to control them or mold them. It's more like they're already the spirits that they are. They're already the person that they are. And your job as a parent is to guide them to be the best version of that person that they can be. And I think too often parents get into this idea where they have to control or they have to force this or that. Mm-hmm. And I just like, once I understood that for myself, that it's not ever about control. It's about guidance and allowing them to be who they are, but sort of setting up those boundaries that funnel them into being that best version of them. And I think that's what the gospel does for people, right? Sometimes it's hard and we don't like it because it refines us, right?
Yes.
But it guides us to be the best person, the best version of ourselves. And so for me as a parent, once I realized that, it helped me change the way that I treated them, and it helped me to change my expectation of my role, as well as like the way that I parented them and what I expected of them.
Yeah. So. And just see them uniquely. I mean, they're so different, right? I would imagine all three of your boys are totally different in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But just appreciating them for who they are and embracing their personalities and just who they are. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Ben. Well, thanks for diving in.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you asked me. I'm glad we finally got it scheduled.
It was fun. All right, Jeff, we are done.